There is a mighty power within your own spoken word, and the mirror, though silent, becomes a sacred gate when approached with faith. As you stand before your reflection, you do not merely see yourself, you summon the divine image. Your words, when charged with belief, become seeds planted in the soil of the subconscious, and the mirror is the field where harvest begins. When you speak truth into that reflection, not doubt, not fear, but truth, you will not just hear an echo, you will feel the voice of God respond, not in sound, but in signs, in peace, in sudden shifts, and answered prayer. So today, speak deliberately, speak boldly, and speak as one who knows they are co-creating with the infinite. Watch closely. The reflection will not lie. The voice of God will meet your words with divine reply. The mirror has always been more than just a surface of reflection. It is a sacred symbol of consciousness, a portal where the outer and inner worlds meet. When one stands before a mirror, it is not merely a moment of observing features or adjusting appearance. It is a spiritual confrontation, an encounter with the self, and more deeply, with the essence of who we truly are. The mirror does not lie, but it also does not interpret. It simply reflects what is brought before it. And in this still, quiet reflection lies an invitation to access a higher realm. The ancients understood that symbols hold power, and the mirror has long been seen as a symbol of truth. But when used with spiritual intention, it becomes a gateway, a thin place where the veil between heaven and earth dissolves. The mirror is neutral in itself, but when we engage with it from a place of awareness, it responds. It is not magic in the superstitious sense, it is divine law in action. What you see is what you bring. What you speak becomes substance. What you declare with conviction returns to you multiplied. The mirror does not possess the power, it simply reveals the power already within you. Most people look into the mirror and see limitation, flaws, age, regret. They see only the outer man, not realizing that the true self, the eternal self, is standing behind the eyes. But when you come to the mirror with spiritual eyes open, you do not see just flesh and form. You see the image of God, you see the vessel through which divine power flows. The mirror becomes a reminder that God dwells within. This is why what you say to yourself in that moment matters so deeply. It is the moment you choose either alignment or resistance to the truth of your being. Approaching the mirror with reverence transforms it into a sacred altar. You are not just rehearsing affirmations, you are speaking life into your reflection. You are activating spiritual law by impressing your words upon your subconscious mind, which in turn connects to the divine pattern of your life. The mirror becomes a point of focus, a place where you bring together thought, feeling, and word, all three essential components in spiritual demonstration. You are not asking for something outside of yourself, you are awakening what is already within. When you say, "I am whole, I am loved, I am guided," you are not convincing the mirror, you are realigning your mind to divine truth. And the mirror, in its silence, responds. You may not hear a voice with your ears, but you will feel a shift. Your energy will rise. Your fears will dissolve. Your confidence will settle like peace in your chest. This is God speaking back. Not in the way the world understands sound, but in the way spirit communicates, through resonance, through awareness, through the quiet assurance that you have been heard. Those who speak with faith at the mirror often notice that their day begins to unfold differently. Doors open, answers come, people appear who carry what you need. These are not coincidences, they are responses. You spoke, and life responded. You sowed words, and the mirror reflected not just your face, but the energy behind those words. The mirror is not the source, it is the amplifier. It is where you declare who you are, and watch heaven agree. But this sacred process requires sincerity. You cannot stand before the mirror half-hearted, uttering words you do not believe, and expect transformation. The mirror responds to the vibration behind the word. This is why preparation of the heart matters. Before you speak, still yourself. Breathe. Enter the moment as if you were approaching a throne, because in truth, you are. You are meeting the God within, not a distant deity, but the living presence that abides in your very breath. When you speak with awareness of this presence, your words carry weight, they carry authority, and they do not return void. The mirror is a place of remembering. It is easy to forget who you are, in a world that constantly tries to tell you otherwise. But the mirror, used in faith, becomes your daily sanctuary. It is where you restore your identity, not according to the world, but according to divine law. Each time you speak truth into your reflection, you push back against the lies of limitation, fear, and unworthiness. You establish once again that you are not a victim of life, but a vessel of divine power. So never underestimate the simple act of standing before your reflection. It is more than routine. It is a holy ritual when done with faith. You are not talking to a piece of glass. You are communing with your inner reality, and as you speak, God listens. As you declare, heaven aligns. As you believe, the reflection begins to transform, not because the mirror changed, but because you did. And in that transformation you find the voice of God, gentle, unmistakable, and gloriously near. Words are not mere sounds that dissolve into silence. Words are forces. They are unseen carriers of creative energy, shaping the fabric of reality as they are spoken. To the average person, speaking seems like a natural act, automatic and ordinary. But for the one who is spiritually awake, the spoken word is a divine tool, an instrument of manifestation, a decree sent forth into the invisible realm that returns as visible experience. This is why every word must be guarded, every phrase weighed, every declaration shaped with intention. You are never merely speaking, you are always creating. In the beginning of all things, it was the word that moved first. The word did not describe, it created. So when you speak, you are participating in that same divine pattern, echoing the original creative act. You are not just saying what is, you are forming what shall be. And when the word is infused with faith, it becomes a key that opens doors, rearranges circumstances, and calls into being that which had no visible form. Most people speak from habit, emotion, or fear. They speak of what they do not want, declare what they lack, complain of what they dread, and so their words become chains, rather than wings. The power of the spoken word works regardless of whether one is conscious of it or not. Just like gravity does not require belief to function. This is why one must become deeply aware of what is being released through the mouth. Words carry vibration, and every vibration attracts a matching result. To speak from fear is to magnetize more fear. To speak in faith is to draw forth miracles. The power in the spoken word lies not in the sound alone, but in the authority behind it. When you speak from your spiritual center, when you speak not as a desperate human, but as a divine being in alignment with truth, your words carry weight in both the seen and unseen worlds. You begin to notice that things move, people respond, circumstances shift. It is not magic, it is divine law responding to the vibration of your command, and a command spoken in faith is never ignored by the universe. There is a difference between begging and declaring. Many people plead with God, repeating prayers full of fear, hoping something will change. But change begins when one learns to speak with authority. The spoken word, when spoken from spiritual alignment, does not ask, it claims. It does not plead, it knows. It does not wish, it expects. This shift is not arrogance, it is reverence for the law of divine order. You speak not from the ego, but from the I am, and when that sacred I am precedes your words, heaven listens. The spoken word shapes not only your outer world, but also your inner state. What you say, you begin to believe. What you affirm, your subconscious begins to accept. Your thoughts may still waver, but repeated spoken truth begins to chisel away doubt, like water smoothing stone. The subconscious mind does not resist repetition. It does not judge the words. It simply absorbs and reflects them back into your life as experience. So the words you speak in private, in the mirror, in silence, they are all sowing seeds that will bear fruit in due time. To harness the power of the spoken word is to become a conscious creator, no longer drifting through life, reacting to what is. You begin to speak what is to come. You declare peace in the midst of chaos. You speak abundance in the face of lack. You affirm healing where there is pain. And because you speak not from wishful thinking, but from spiritual knowing, the vibration of your words calls forth matching realities. You are not denying what is, you are declaring what is divinely true beneath the surface of what appears. This is why spiritual teachers have always emphasized the discipline of the tongue. Idle words are not harmless. Complaints, gossip, and words of fear all create subtle disturbances in your field of energy. But when your words are chosen with awareness, when your speech is filled with faith, love, gratitude, and clarity, your entire atmosphere begins to shift. You become a beacon of divine order. People feel your presence. Circumstances bend in your favor, not because you are manipulating reality, but because you are harmonizing with divine truth through the words you speak. When you speak aloud, especially into the mirror, your words are amplified. You hear them. You feel their vibration resonate through your body. They enter your ears, reach your heart, and echo through the subconscious. And the universe, like a great responding mirror, begins to move in agreement. It does not matter how impossible your desire seems. Speak it. Speak it not with desperation, but with certainty. Speak it as one who knows that the spoken word, charged with faith, sends forth an invisible decree that creation must fulfill. You do not need perfect grammar, elegant language, or religious terminology. What matters is belief. What matters is the vibration of truth behind the word. Speak it in the morning. Speak it when doubt creeps in. Speak it when no one else believes. Speak it until the walls fall down, the doors open, and the vision you held becomes the life you live. For truly the spoken word is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, the whisper that shakes mountains, the soft breath that brings life into form. Use it with reverence, and it will become your greatest spiritual weapon. The subconscious mind is the fertile soil of the soul. It does not argue, it does not reason, and it does not question. It simply accepts what is planted into it, nurtures it with repetition and feeling, and brings it forth as experience. This is why faith is so essential. It is the force that presses your desires into the subconscious with authority, sealing them as truth. When you speak with conviction, your words are not just sounds in the air, they are seeds dropping deep into the hidden layers of your consciousness, and once they take root, they grow according to their kind. The subconscious operates according to belief, not logic. It does not distinguish between fact and fiction, reality or illusion. It only knows what you repeatedly affirm and accept with feeling. This is the quiet engine behind all that unfolds in your life. You may wish for success, health, or love on the surface of your mind, but if you have impressed fear, doubt, and lack upon your subconscious through years of negative thought and speech, those deeper patterns will dominate. The subconscious is always listening, not just to your words, but to your tone, your emotion, and your inner convictions, and it obeys. Faith is the hand that writes upon the inner slate. It does not require external evidence to begin. It simply knows. Faith says, "This is true," even when circumstances say otherwise. And when faith is present, the words you speak become powerful imprints upon the subconscious. You are not hoping for change, you are declaring it into the hidden place where all change begins. The subconscious is like dark, rich soil. It does not care what seed you plant. It will grow thorns as easily as it grows roses. Your job is not to dig it up every day and question it. Your job is to plant truth, water it with repetition and belief, and trust that it is growing, even when you cannot see it. This is why spiritual disciplines such as affirmations, declarations, and mirror work are so transformative. When you speak truth aloud, when you say, "I am healed, I am divinely guided, I am abundant," you are not lying to yourself. You are speaking to the deeper mind, the inner field, the place where God dwells in silence. And with each repetition, you are writing a new reality into your being. At first, the outer life may resist. The old patterns may still appear, but do not be deceived. A seed takes time to break through the surface. Do not pull it up in doubt. Keep speaking, keep believing. The breakthrough is already underway. The subconscious mind does not change through force, but through consistency and feeling. You cannot bully your way into transformation. You must persuade the inner self with faith. Speak your word with calm authority, and infuse it with emotion. Feeling is the fire that sets the word ablaze. Without feeling, words are empty shells. But when spoken with deep emotion, joy, gratitude, reverence, they become creative forces. This is why the most powerful prayers are often the simplest, spoken not with many words, but with much belief. A single phrase repeated with full conviction can change the course of your life. Many people do not realize that their outer struggles are rooted in inner beliefs they never consciously agreed to. Childhood impressions, repeated criticism, fears absorbed from others. All these lie buried in the subconscious, quietly shaping relationships, health, finances, and more. But the beauty of divine law is this: nothing in the subconscious is permanent. It can be rewritten, it can be healed. The moment you begin to speak truth with faith, you are overriding old programs. You are renewing the mind, restoring the soul, and reclaiming your divine inheritance. And though it may take time, persistence will always prevail. The subconscious must eventually yield to the strongest impression. This is also why silence can be dangerous when it is filled with fearful thought. If you do not take command of your inner world, it will be commanded for you by media, by fear, by habit. But when you rise each day and speak truth aloud, especially before a mirror, you are taking conscious authority over your mind. You are reminding the subconscious of who you are. You are affirming your divine identity. You are no longer a passive receiver. You become an intentional sower of truth. Faith, then, is not just hope for a better future. It is the power to imprint the subconscious now. When faith and word combine, they pierce through the old shell of belief and begin to recreate the very structure of your inner world. And as within, so without. The outer world rearranges itself in response to the new inner image you have impressed. This is not wishful thinking. It is spiritual law. The universe moves not according to outer action alone, but according to inner conviction. What you truly believe in the deep places of your being becomes the blueprint for your reality. So speak, and speak often, not in fear, but in faith. Speak not to change the outer world directly, but to impress divine truth upon the subconscious, knowing it is the hidden architect of all form. As you persist, you will feel something shift. The old voices will quiet, the new truth will rise, and eventually, what was once an affirmation will become your natural state. You will no longer need to declare it, you will simply live it. For the word spoken in faith is never wasted. It is written into the soul, and from that sacred place, it shapes the world. To declare your divine identity is not arrogance, it is the highest humility. It is the recognition that you are not the sum of your fears, not the echo of your past, and not the reflection of the world's judgment. You are a divine being, formed in the image of the infinite, housing within you the same creative spirit that spoke the stars into being. But this truth must be claimed, it must be spoken, it must be declared, not once, but again and again, until it becomes the atmosphere in which you live and breathe. Many people walk through life unaware of who they truly are. They adopt labels handed to them by family, society, or circumstance. I am broken, I am unworthy, I am not enough. These statements are not facts, they are agreements, and whatever you agree with in the depths of your being becomes your experience. The subconscious does not question identity, it only reflects it. This is why declaring your divine identity is an act of spiritual authority. You are not creating a fantasy. You are reclaiming what was always yours but hidden beneath layers of fear, shame, or forgetfulness. To declare I am followed by any truth is to awaken the God essence within. I am whole. I am loved. I am guided. These are not affirmations meant to trick the mind. They are statements of reality drawn from the eternal truth of your being. Every time you say I am with clarity and faith, you are lighting a flame in your consciousness, burning away the old and illuminating the new. The words I am are the holiest words you can speak, because they do not describe something external. They define your very essence. What follows those two words becomes the shape of your inner world and eventually, your outer life. Most people have been trained to think small, speak small, and live small. They have been conditioned to identify with struggle, lack, and limitation. But divine law does not require you to suffer before you rise. It only requires that you remember who you are. And remembrance begins with the spoken word. When you look into the mirror and say, I am a child of the divine, you are not trying to convince yourself of a lie. You are stripping away illusions. You are speaking to the soul that already knows. And as you speak, the soul stirs. It remembers. Identity is not something to be found in the world. It is something to be revealed from within. No job title, relationship, or achievement can define you more deeply than the truth that you are made of divine substance, moved by divine breath, and supported by divine law. This is not religion, it is reality, and it is your responsibility to affirm it, not to impress others, but to anchor yourself in truth when the storms of life try to shake you. The world may tell you who you are not, but your declaration tells the universe who you choose to be. Declaring your divine identity is not about perfection. It is about alignment. It is about choosing, day by day, to see yourself through the eyes of God, and not the lens of fear. You may still feel doubt. You may still hear the voice of the inner critic. But when you speak truth aloud, when you declare who you are, you create a new frequency in your field. You begin to override the static of fear with the sound of truth. And the more you speak it, the stronger it becomes. Identity, like a muscle, grows stronger with use. The mirror becomes a powerful tool in this process. When you look into your own eyes and declare your divine identity, you are not simply reciting words, you are activating memory. You are calling forth the deeper self, the eternal self, the part of you untouched by time or trauma. At first it may feel strange, you may feel resistance, but that resistance is only the old identity crumbling. Keep speaking, keep declaring. You are not building something new from nothing, you are uncovering the treasure already placed within you. Your divine identity includes peace, wisdom, love, and strength. It includes the right to prosper, to heal, to grow, to create, and to lead. It is not an identity of ego, it is the true self, the higher self, the Christ consciousness, the God seed. And this identity is not earned through suffering or effort, it is accepted through declaration. Say it boldly, say it often, say it until the voice of fear falls silent. You are not waiting to become, you already are. The declaration brings that truth to the surface. And as you walk in the awareness of this divine identity, your life will begin to reflect it. You will attract new people, new opportunities, and new expressions of grace. You will find that where once there was confusion, now there is clarity. Where once there was struggle, now there is flow. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because you stepped into alignment with who you truly are. The world responds not to your effort, but to your frequency, and your frequency is shaped by your self-concept, spoken through your words, anchored in your heart. So declare it now. I am chosen, I am free, I am loved, I am divine. These are not hopes, they are truths. And when spoken with faith, they awaken the very power of heaven within your soul. You are not your wounds, you are not your past, you are not your failures. You are light, you are love, and you are the living proof of God's presence on earth. Let your words reflect that. Let your mirror confirm it, and let your life reveal it. Within every human mind exists a quiet battle, a struggle between the voice of truth and the voice of fear. This inner conflict is subtle, but it shapes everything: how we speak, how we love, how we show up in the world. Doubt is not just a passing thought, it is a habit formed over years of listening to the wrong voice. It whispers, "You're not enough, you always fail, why even try?" These words are not based on divine truth, they are echoes of past wounds, fears absorbed from the world, beliefs that have no place in the life of one who walks in faith, and yet they continue to speak, unless they are silenced. Silencing inner doubt is not about suppressing your thoughts or pretending you have no fear. It is about confronting those thoughts with a greater truth. It is about meeting every fearful whisper with a spoken word that contradicts it and dissolves it. Doubt speaks softly, but persistently. It repeats itself until it is accepted as fact. This is why you must speak your truth, even more persistently. Every time doubt says, "You can't," you must say, "I am already able." When it says, "You're not worthy," you answer, "I am chosen and divinely loved." The point is not to argue with doubt, but to replace it. You cannot think your way out of deeply rooted doubt. Thought alone is too passive. Words are active. Words carry vibration. When you speak truth out loud, especially when you declare it in front of a mirror, you break the loop of mental fear. You shift the energy. You interrupt the pattern. And over time, your spoken truth begins to rewire your internal script. The words you speak become the new foundation of your self-perception. Doubt may still knock, but it no longer finds a welcome. It begins to fade, not because it was defeated by logic, but because it was outshined by truth. The truth is that doubt is not yours by nature. You were not born with it. It was given to you, passed down by voices that didn't know better, by experiences that clouded your faith, by systems and people who were more invested in control than in your freedom. But what was planted by others can be uprooted by you. You are not bound to carry every thought that arises in your mind. You have been given the authority to choose, to release, to declare, and to transform. And it begins by taking hold of your words. When you look into the mirror and speak words of truth, you are doing more than practicing positivity. You are retraining your mind to respond to truth instead of fear. The mirror reflects not just your face, but your intention. It becomes a witness to your declaration. It says, "This is who I choose to be now." Doubt may still whisper from the shadows, but your voice carries more power when it is used with conviction. You don't need to yell, you simply need to mean what you say. The moment your spoken truth becomes stronger than the whisper of fear, a shift begins. It may be quiet at first, but it is real, and it grows. One of the greatest lies of doubt is the belief that it will always be there, that no matter what you do, some part of you will always sabotage your progress. This is not divine truth. It is psychological conditioning. It is a mental stronghold that can be broken with consistency and faith. You are not at the mercy of your inner critic. You are not a slave to the mind's fearful loops. You have a voice, and that voice, when used in alignment with truth, becomes a spiritual weapon. Speak light, and darkness must retreat. This is why repetition is so powerful. Doubt is not silenced in a single moment. It is unlearned through daily practice. Every day that you choose to speak truth, even when you don't fully feel it, you are teaching your mind a new language. A language of confidence, peace, clarity, and divine authority. Over time, the old language, the language of fear, guilt, unworthiness, loses its grip. You begin to recognize it when it appears, and you don't give it power. You listen for the voice of truth instead, and that voice gets louder with every declaration you make. The silence of doubt thrives when you remain passive, but the voice of truth requires action. It requires participation. It is not enough to believe in your heart, you must speak with your mouth. There is power in hearing your own voice speak life. It echoes in your body. It resonates in your cells. It becomes a vibration that begins to change the very atmosphere around you. You may still feel afraid, but when you speak from faith, you create space for courage. You may still be uncertain, but your words begin to make the path clearer. Eventually, something miraculous happens. What once felt like forced declarations become natural. What once felt like a lie begins to feel like the deepest truth. You look in the mirror and no longer see someone trying to believe. You see someone who knows, not because life became easier, but because you silenced the voice that once held you back. Doubt is not your master, it is only a shadow, and light, when spoken, dissolves shadows. So, keep speaking, keep declaring, keep answering every whisper of fear with a voice of faith. Say to yourself what God says about you. Say it even when your voice shakes. Say it until it becomes the only voice you hear, because you were never meant to live under the weight of doubt. You were created to walk in truth, to speak with boldness, and to live in the light of your divine identity, free, whole, and completely alive. Aligning with the voice of God is not something that comes from striving harder or trying to be perfect. It is a quiet yielding, a shift from living according to the noise of the world, to listening for the still, small voice within. This voice does not shout. It does not force. It does not argue. It whispers with clarity, certainty, and love. And the more you begin to silence your external distractions and internal fears, the clearer this voice becomes. It has always been there, steady, constant, and true. But you must choose to align with it, to tune in, to trust it above all other voices. This alignment is a return to your natural state. You were born connected to divine wisdom. You were created with the capacity to hear and respond to the truth of God within you. But as you moved through life, layers of noise began to cover that inner knowing. Noise from fear, trauma, false teachings, and the conditioning of a world disconnected from spirit. Aligning with the voice of God is not about adding anything new. It's about removing what was never meant to be there. It's about unlearning fear and remembering faith. It's about creating enough inner stillness to recognize when God is speaking, and He always is. One of the most powerful ways to align with the voice of God is through the spoken word. When you declare truth, especially truth that reflects your divine identity and purpose, you are tuning your entire being to the frequency of heaven. God's voice is not limited to holy texts or external signs. It is felt in your intuition, in your peace, in your clarity. When you speak words of love, wisdom, faith, and courage, you are not just encouraging yourself. You are resonating with divine intelligence. You are saying yes to truth, yes to light, yes to the life you were always meant to live. Many people wait to hear the voice of God as if it must come through thunder, visions, or supernatural events. But God speaks through your inner conviction, your inspired thoughts, and the sense of deep knowing that settles over your spirit when you choose what is right and true. When you say, "I am loved, I am protected, I am guided," you are not making up nice-sounding affirmations. You are aligning with eternal truths that have existed since the beginning. And when your inner word matches the divine word, something powerful happens. You become a vessel for divine flow. Alignment is not forced, it is allowed. You align not by pushing or pleading, but by believing, by trusting that the voice of God is not far off but closer than your next breath, by understanding that God does not only speak to the perfect or the religious or the spiritual elite. He speaks to the willing, the open-hearted, the quiet listener. He speaks to you when you set aside your judgment and your self-condemnation and choose to listen with your soul rather than your mind. He speaks to you when you declare truth into your life, even when you feel unworthy, especially then. There is no greater power than living in alignment with God's voice. You begin to recognize what is meant for you and what must be released. You stop reacting from fear and begin responding from peace. Your decisions become clearer, not because you have all the answers, but because you are no longer led by confusion. Divine alignment clears the fog. It brings light to what was hidden. You speak, and heaven echoes. You declare, and reality shifts. Because you are no longer creating from separation, you are creating from unity, from connection with Source. And this is not a once-in-a-lifetime event. It is a daily practice. Each time you choose faith over fear, love over judgment, truth over illusion, you align again. Every time you speak what God has said about you, rather than what the world says, you bring yourself into harmony. Alignment becomes your compass, your filter, your foundation. It teaches you to wait when necessary, to move when prompted, to speak when the moment is right. The voice of God is never frantic, it is never anxious, it is never condemning. When you hear a voice of fear, know that it is not His. His voice brings peace, even when it calls for change. His voice brings courage, even when it leads into the unknown. To live in alignment with God's voice is to walk through life with an invisible confidence. You begin to know that you are not alone, not forgotten, not at the mercy of chaos. You feel held, guided, and seen. You stop chasing approval because you already have divine affirmation. You stop seeking clarity from the outside because you trust the wisdom rising from within. And you no longer fear your reflection in the mirror because you've begun to recognize the divine presence staring back at you. In that sacred stillness, the voice of God becomes unmistakable. It speaks through your own voice when you speak in faith. It flows through your words, your prayers, your declarations. It confirms itself through peace that surpasses understanding. You realize that when you speak from alignment, you are not speaking to God alone, you are speaking with Him. There is no separation. You and the Source are in union, and every word spoken in that state of harmony becomes a creative force. It shapes your path, heals your wounds, and aligns your life with divine design. So speak with faith. Declare what God declares. Let His truth be your truth. Let His voice rise within you until it becomes your own. In this alignment, all things become possible, not because of your effort, but because of your surrender. You don't have to make the divine voice louder. You only have to make your inner world quiet enough to hear it. And once you do, you will never walk the same again. Manifestation through reflection is a deeply spiritual process that begins not with the outer world, but with the inner image you hold of yourself, and the words you speak into that image. The mirror becomes more than just glass. It becomes a sacred witness to your faith. What you choose to speak in front of it carries weight, because the mirror reflects not only your physical form, but your consciousness, your vibration, your self-concept. It is here, in this quiet moment of confrontation with your own eyes, that creation begins, not out there in the world, but here, within your own energy. Everything in your life is a reflection of what you consistently hold true within. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. You draw to you what you believe, what you feel, what you speak, and what you accept as possible. The world you see outside is nothing but a mirror of your inner state, and when you understand this law, you no longer try to force things to change externally. You go directly to the source, your consciousness, and you begin to re-script it through intentional reflection and declaration. When you stand in front of a mirror and speak words of truth and life, you are impressing a new image onto your subconscious. You are not just saying nice things to yourself. You are telling the deeper part of you what is real. The subconscious mind does not argue or analyze. It simply receives. And as you continue to repeat your chosen truth, I am whole, I am worthy, I am abundant, your inner world begins to shift. That shift is the seed of manifestation. What you impress deeply enough will eventually express itself in the world around you, not by chance, but by law. People often think manifestation is about visualization alone, or wishing for something until it shows up. But true manifestation begins with alignment. It begins with becoming the person who already holds the experience you desire. The mirror gives you a place to rehearse that identity, not with pretense, but with intention. You are not pretending to be someone you are not. You are reminding yourself of who you really are underneath the doubt, underneath the fear, underneath the programming of limitation. The mirror becomes the proving ground where old beliefs die and new realities are born. When you look into your own eyes and declare a truth you barely believe yet, something powerful happens. You begin to bridge the gap between who you've been and who you are becoming. The reflection may not change instantly, but your energy does, and energy is the true beginning of all manifestation. The outer world is always playing catch-up to the vibration you carry. If you want to change the results in your life, you must first change the frequency from which you live, and that frequency is shaped by the words you speak and the beliefs you hold while you speak them. The mirror also serves as a moment of radical honesty. It is difficult to lie to yourself when you're looking into your own eyes. If there is doubt, you will feel it. If there is resistance, you will notice it. But this is not a problem. It is a gift, because you cannot heal what you refuse to see. And when you bring your hidden fears to the surface, when you meet them face to face in that reflection, you give yourself the chance to speak a greater truth. You take back your power from the parts of you that still live in the past, and you reclaim it with words that are anchored in the now. And manifestation is always happening in the now. You are not manifesting a distant future. You are aligning now with the version of you who already holds the reality you seek. You begin to embody that vibration through speech, through posture, through belief, and the mirror helps you anchor that identity with precision. You see yourself not as the world has labeled you, but as God sees you, whole, worthy, capable, chosen. You let that truth take root. You nourish it with repetition. And then, as surely as morning follows night, the reflection begins to show up in your life in tangible ways. A chance meeting becomes the connection you needed. A closed door suddenly opens. An answer you had been searching for appears through inspiration or coincidence. But these are not random events. They are the outpicturing of what you planted in your inner mirror. They are the harvest of seeds spoken in faith. And the beautiful thing is this: once you experience the power of manifestation through reflection, you realize you are never powerless again. No matter what circumstances may say, you know that change is only one declaration away, one shift in belief, one moment of choosing to see yourself differently. Manifestation through reflection teaches you that the true work is within, that you do not need to chase the world. You need only speak the truth until the world reflects it back. You no longer react to life. You initiate it. You co-create with the divine by aligning your speech, your faith, and your self-image with what is already true in spirit. And the mirror is your sacred space for this work. It is where the invisible becomes visible, where what was only imagined becomes real. And all it asks of you is to believe, to speak, and to persist, until the life you once dreamed becomes the life you now live. Receiving divine confirmation is not always about hearing an audible voice or seeing signs written across the sky. More often it is subtle, a quiet knowing, a deep peace, a sudden clarity that cuts through confusion. When you speak truth into your life, especially in sacred moments of intentional reflection, like standing before a mirror and declaring your divine identity, something begins to shift. You are not just affirming, you are inviting heaven to agree. And when that agreement happens, it manifests not just as inner confidence, but as outer confirmation. Divine response always follows divine alignment. The human heart longs to be reassured. It seeks evidence, signs, and validation. But what most do not realize is that divine confirmation often follows action, not the other way around. You speak in faith, not because you've already seen results, but because you trust that God is listening. And it is that faith that moves the invisible into the visible. Confirmation comes not to convince you, but to affirm what you already dared to believe. It is heaven's way of saying, yes, this is the path, keep going. The process of speaking truth into your life, especially in front of a mirror, is a form of sacred declaration. You are not begging for change, you are establishing it. You are choosing to believe in the power of the unseen, even before anything shifts around you. And in response to that boldness, divine confirmation begins to appear. It might be a person showing up unexpectedly with a word you needed. It might be a dream, a repeated message, a feeling of deep calm, or even an opportunity that aligns so perfectly it could only have been orchestrated by something higher. This is why you must never dismiss the small signs. Divine confirmation is often quiet because it speaks to your spirit, not your ego. The ego wants loud, dramatic proofs, but spirit speaks in stillness. The more you quiet your internal chaos, the fear, the worry, the need to control, the more attuned you become to the confirmations already present. They are always there, not because you are special, but because you are divinely connected. And the divine always responds to faith. Always. It may not come in the way you imagined, but it always comes. There is also a beautiful inner confirmation that happens when your words begin to take root. You begin to feel stronger, more grounded, more aligned. You stop second-guessing yourself. You no longer speak from desperation but from authority. That inner shift is confirmation. You begin to recognize your own voice as sacred, your own energy as holy. And as you walk in this new vibration, the outer world starts to mirror it back to you. People treat you differently. Circumstances shift. Life opens where it once felt closed. This is not coincidence. It is reflection. It is your inner reality becoming your external experience. Divine confirmation can also be a sense of ease in your soul, not the absence of challenge, but the presence of divine order. You may still face difficulties, but you begin to feel a sense of support beneath them, a knowing that you are not alone, that something greater is walking with you, guiding your steps, placing the right words in your mouth, and the right people in your path. And it all began the moment you chose to speak truth, the moment you refused to let fear be the narrator of your life, and instead let your words be aligned with what heaven already knows about you. It's important to remember that confirmation is not always instant. Sometimes it takes days, weeks, or even months, but that doesn't mean it isn't coming. Delayed confirmation is not denial. It is preparation. It is alignment in process. Divine timing is not about withholding, it's about orchestration. You are not just being confirmed, you are being refined, prepared, strengthened, so that when the confirmation arrives, you are ready to carry it, ready to walk in the fullness of the word you spoke in faith. This process also requires consistency. You cannot speak truth one day, and then speak fear the next, and expect clear confirmation. The universe responds to clarity. It moves in harmony with consistency. Every time you speak truth, even if you're unsure, it builds a wave of energy. Eventually that wave becomes too strong to be ignored, and it breaks forth as confirmation in your outer world. But you must keep going. Faith is not tested by how loud you can declare, but by how steady you remain when nothing seems to happen. That steadiness becomes a signal, and heaven answers steady signals. One of the greatest confirmations you can receive is transformation in your own perspective. When your inner dialogue changes, when you catch yourself speaking from power rather than panic, from love rather than lack, you know something divine has occurred. You are no longer trying to force life to change. You are flowing with it, co-creating it with God. That inner peace is a sign of divine union. You have aligned, and now you are receiving, not because you demanded, but because you declared. So continue to speak truth, continue to declare what is already yours in spirit. Look into the mirror and call forth what you desire, not as a wish, but as a truth. Say it with faith. Say it with gratitude. Say it until your bones believe it, and then watch. Watch how life shifts. Watch how people respond. Watch how unexpected answers come. These are not random moments, they are confirmations, divine responses to your divine identity spoken aloud. They are reminders that heaven listens, that your voice matters, and that God always speaks back to the one who dares to speak first in faith. You are not simply a body looking into a mirror, you are a divine being calling forth truth into form. With every word you've spoken into that reflection, you've done more than affirm, you've activated. You've aligned your heart with heaven, your mind with the mind of God, and your life with divine order. The mirror was never just glass, it was a gateway, a sacred altar, where the inner meets the outer, and spirit responds to spirit. When you speak in faith, you awaken the invisible forces that have been waiting for your permission to move. When you declare your worth, your peace, your abundance, and your healing, you are not begging, you are remembering. And God, who waits not in distance, but in presence, answers the voice that speaks from truth. So keep speaking, keep believing, keep showing up to that mirror, not as one who lacks, but as one who knows. For as surely as the reflection meets your gaze, so will divine confirmation meet your life. God is not silent, God is responding, and your words are the bridge.